Hi, my name is Paul Nyman, and this is part of the Getting the Most Out of Your Recruiter series. What I'm going to share here in this particular clip is how recruiters work and the way in which their landscape is shaped. It's a brief insight for those who aren't familiar with that recruitment industry about how they operate. There will be further clips in Getting the Most Out of the Recruiter series that I'll share with you later, and as a consequence of that, do sign up and subscribe. As a brief oversight, I've been working in recruitment for over 25 years, and during that period I've operated both internally as a recruitment manager and for the last 20 years managed my own recruitment business, interviewing in excess of 25,000 people. So coming on to this particular clip, I'm going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes just sharing with you a little bit about how the recruitment industry works. So as a top line, there are three types of recruiters, generally three types of recruiters. There are those that operate within the high street. There are those that operate predominantly within a national or international structure. And there are those that operate principally within a boutique type environment. So we're going to take each of those in turn. The high street individuals are those that will deal with mainly white collar workers. It's those individuals who are looking for day-to-day roles where the role can be managed and placed with an individual from any particular background. The impact of that is that what they're about is about recruiting volumes of people to go and fill predominantly volumes of roles. So these could be production packers on a line, it could be individuals who are working as in a cleaning environment, it could be people without any particularly highly skilled activity, but they're happy to work and often slightly transient in their marketplace. In the UK, some of those agencies may be known as, for example, Reed and Hayes, where they operate in those style of environments, through to more local businesses, depending upon where you're positioned. The international or the national players in the UK here, some of those examples may be the likes of Hayes and Michael Page. Both organisations have operations in the UK and internationally in the US, Europe and Australasia. They'll operate within a specific defined discipline, but they'll have multiple discipline areas that they operate across. Hayes is a really good example of this, where they'll operate from purchasing to supply chain, they'll operate in finance, they'll operate in sales, marketing, they'll operate in HR, administration. And so as a consequence of that, some organisations on an international footing see themselves as specialists, whereas actually what they are generalists. The impact of that for you as a candidate when you're choosing your recruiter of choice is about their knowledge of your marketplace, but also the relationship that they have. And finally, the third type of recruiter that exists within the recruitment market are those who are more of a boutique nature. These are often set up by individuals. They're often set up by individuals with a focus on providing a particular style of service and giving that service very uniquely and boutiquely to both their candidates and their clients. The relationship is often closer, and as a consequence, they're often very niche. They'll operate within one particular or two or three particular discipline areas, and within the context of that, when we're talking about disciplines, we're talking about HR, finance, sales, marketing. But what we also need to think about is the markets they operate in. Some of those boutique businesses will be very specific to the markets they operate in, whether that be food, consumer, it could be international finance, or it could be banking. So the boutique businesses we may find as rather specialist in their approach, and some individuals find that using boutique organisations can add a greater benefit if they're in a very close, not tight-knit marketplace. So generally they're the three types of recruiters. Those recruiters can often then be split down by salary level. There are those that will operate up to about the £50,000 level. There are those that will operate up to the 100k level. And then there are those that will operate in what is sometimes termed the C-suite sector, which is the 100 to 200k plus. And these are often board level positions. Some individuals will refer to those businesses which operate only within the C-suite or the board level, as headhunters. Headhunting is an approach which is used by some organisations to attract candidates, but it's also used by some recruitment companies in order to impress upon the client their ability to delve into particular types of markets. So we've covered off the types of recruitment companies and also the levels at which those recruiters operate. There is now a thought process about the approach a recruitment company will take. A recruitment company can operate in one of two ways. It can operate on a contingent basis, by which the business is paid at the end of the recruitment program, and no money or transaction will take place from client to recruiter until the successful candidate has accepted the role and often started the role. So billing for a candidate will take place once the candidate has started. So when you're looking for a role, have no fear about the financial implications of you taking that role on yourself. The billing will take place between the client and the recruitment company. So the contingent approach is about the recruiter being paid for their success once they've completed the work. The alternative to that is that the organisation, the recruitment organisation, operates on a retained basis. And in this situation, very often the recruitment business will work on a solus basis, one recruiter working with one company, and they will be paid when the recruitment company starts looking for the individuals, and a little bit at the end. Sometimes the split of income is some at the beginning, some during the process, and some at the end of the process, but the consequence of that is that the recruitment company is always looking for individuals. From a practical point of view, as a candidate, your experience should really not differ whether an organisation is undertaking a contingent approach or a retained approach. It should be about your relationship with the recruiter itself. And that leads me on perfectly into the piece around the type of recruiter that you want to fit with. So we've talked about the high street, we've talked about the national and the international players, we've talked about the boutique players, so the three types of businesses. To me, in my experience, the recruiter that you partner with is probably the one that's best suited to you from a cultural perspective. And darest I say it, that's actually about who you get on with. Every organisation will operate in subtly different ways, and every recruitment organisation will have a different culture. So if you're exploring who to partner with, consider the culture of the business. Ask the recruiter who their main clients are. Ask them who they worked with in the last year. Ask them whether they work on a contingent basis or a retained basis, and the reason for doing so. Ask them a question about the stretch of their geography and the level of roles that they fill. And when you're dealing with a particular recruiter, think about the individual and the relationship that you're working with, because those questions may apply to the business, but actually it's as important that those questions, who you work with, the level you operate, and the type of geography that you operate across, has to apply to the individual recruitment consultant that you're working with as well. If you feel comfortable working with a business, brilliant. It's like a personal relationship, it will go well. If, however, you feel unsure and unsettled about the way in which the recruiter interacts with you, then it's probably going to tell you something about how you're going to be successful with them supplying you with a future role in your future career. So if you have questions, knock it on the head and move on, find somebody else. If you're uncertain, actually, there's plenty of other opportunities out there. So as a quick recap, there's three types of recruiters. There's the high street that deal with the predominantly white collar opportunities, and then there's the national, international and boutique organisations. We operate across two areas in terms of contingent and retained, and the salary benchmarks are normally fairly clearly defined in terms of the type of roles that they fill. But the most important thing for you is around culture. Think about who you're going to partner with, and think about who's going to take on your CV to help you be successful in finding your next role. I hope this has been helpful. There are other clips in this series. For example, one of those is going to be about what you can do to build your relationship with the recruiter. Do subscribe and like. There's other pieces in the Paul Nyman Career Centre, so follow that up, and I look forward to being in touch with you soon.